Before we start this podcast, I want to definitely remind you of a sponsor for Fresh is the Word, 20 by 20 Apparel. Founded in 2015, 20 by 20 Apparel brings original tributes to pro wrestling's classic arenas, moments, and events. They look to spotlight the bloopers, bleeps, and body slams along with the biggest, smallest, strangest, and strongest. In the world of wrestling where there's hundreds of shirts, promotions, flyers, social media accounts, and ads, don't get lost in the sea of parody shirts and display fonts. They can provide professional graphic design services at a reasonable price. 20 by 20 also hand screen prints all the tees in-house. So if you'd like to discuss a possible run of tees, posters, koozies, foam fingers, or even Zubaz, then drop them a line at 20by20apparel.com. That's the number 20x, the number 20apparel.com. And also check out their enamel pin line. It's super cool.
Fresh is the word.
Welcome to the Fresh is the Word podcast. I'm your host, Kelly K. Fresh Frazier. And like always, we have the freshest of topics and the freshest of guests for you. And the guest for this episode is Todd Black, the creator and writer of the comic book Tokyo Blade Detectives. And currently he's running a Kickstarter for issue 3 of the comic book. I did go ahead and contribute to the last Kickstarter he got, and I was able to pick up the first 2 issues, and they're mad dope. So I was, excited that a new one's coming out, and we got to talk to him, and we talked about the comic book and just making sure everything's authentic and where he gets inspiration, and we even talked about AEW wrestling. So it's a fun interview with Todd Black. Before we get into it, just a little update on things, how things are going. My other podcast, my Detroit history podcast, Renaissance Soul, I keep on pushing back the launch of it. I'm gonna keep it buck. Me sitting down and talking to myself for like an hour or so about my own history just seems grueling for me to do. I talk to myself enough during this pandemic, so I just need somebody. So I came up with the idea that I want someone to interview me, and I found someone. And we still have to go ahead and do the. We're going to be doing the interview this weekend, so hopefully in a couple of weeks, Renaissance Soul will be launched again. And who did I get for it? I got acclaimed author Dan Charnas. And if you don't know who Dan Charnas is, he's an author and he was a radio host, and he played a really big role in the creation of hip-hop journalism. Currently, he's in the middle of writing a book about Jay Dilla, and me and him and I've helped him with some information in regards to that. In the past, he wrote an amazing book called The Big Payback. It was chronicling the business history of hip-hop, and it has all these amazing stories. So I definitely, go ahead and I recommend going out and getting The Big Payback. And you can actually go to dancharnas.com, and there's a link to buy The Big Payback. And he was also the co-author of Def Jam, the first 25 years of the last great record label, along with Bill Adler and Say Adams. I kind of wanted somebody who was familiar with the music that I've been a part of throughout my life and was a part of with the original Renaissance Soul website. But I also wanted I always thought afterwards, I'm like, maybe I don't want anybody who is also involved. So we're gonna do that, and he's gonna interview me about the original Renaissance Soul website, what the podcast is going to be about, my early years just with Detroit hip-hop and stuff and Detroit music, and just my experiences with Detroit music. I'm excited now. So like hopefully Renaissance Soul will probably be launched in a couple of weeks. I think after we I'll have a good maybe idea of when I'm gonna launch it. Maybe next week for So I'll let you know. Along with aside from that, I've been like I started cataloging my music collection on Discogs, and I'm slowly doing it. My records, my tapes, my CDs, and it just like takes me down all these rabbit holes. Like I'll see this band and be like, oh, I really like this band. I go see if they had any other records, and they've had all they'll have other records since, and I go listen to them, and I'm like they're just as good as like that record, and I'm like, all right, let me go. Put that on my want list on Discogs or see if there's any, see if I can get it cheap on there, whatnot. So that's what I'm doing. I'm finding things that are kind of valuable in my collection that I didn't know about that were valuable. Just bringing back a lot of memories, about that music or when I bought it or that time in life. Like that's what a music collection can do, man. It can just and during this pandemic, dude, this has like been like doing that is like the most like relaxing thing, Like I record shop like on Discogs a lot, go through stores, whole collection or whatnot, and it's really relaxing. And now that things are kind of opening up a little bit, there's record stores around the Metro Detroit area that have opened back up again. And like I went out for the first time to a record store about a week or so ago. I went to UHF Records in Royal Oak, yeah, in Royal Oak, and I pretty much went through everything there. I just went there and was like in a calm, and I just picked up a bunch of like cheap stuff, a couple like just cheap Michigan records that I'd never heard of before, and they were kind of good, and a few other things that I kind of I've known of that I'd never had on vinyl that was like pretty good price, dude. Just like going through records, and I know a lot of my record heads can attest to this, is that it's just a relaxing thing. It's like your records are your friends. And definitely during this pandemic, that's like the most relaxing thing I can do is either shop for records or go through my own collection, and like just doing this whole like organizing and you know and documenting and posting my whole collection on Discogs has been just so relaxing, man. So yeah, like if you go to let me get the let me get the direct link here. You can go on Discogs and check out my collection. If you go to discogs.com/user/kfresh, then you can it'll have a link to the collection. You can see it as it keeps going, as I keep adding stuff. I started adding my cassette collection, and that's weird. It's like either things are valuable or ain't worth anything. It's when it comes to cassettes. There's no in between, barely. So yeah, that's what I've been doing. It's a very relaxing thing, and like I said, and I've said it before, if you have any records you want to send me, holler at me. DJKFresh at gmail.com. And then also I'm posting a lot. I'm posting pictures of just interesting things that I find in my collection on all my social media. So especially on Twitter and Instagram, if you go at Kfresh is the word, then you'll see some things that either are part of my collection or things I just bought that I got in the mail. And oh, and that reminds me, I did my first like unboxing video too. And if it's about the offensive crayons that past guest Alice Vaughn from the Two Girls One Mic porncast. She puts out these offensive crayons, and this one's the porn pack. So I do an unboxing of it, but I had fun doing it. I just did it on a whim, and put it together in iMovie on the Mac, and it came out pretty nice. It was pretty fun. So if you want me to unbox something, something that could be a collection of records or your new if you have any like T-shirts, or want to send me some clothes, or send me some comic books, or something I can unbox, and give you a nice review for, or something, like holler at me, djkfresh at gmail.com. So yeah, that's about it for now. Let's get into this interview with Todd Black, creator of the Tokyo Blade Detectives comic books, which is doing Kickstarter for issue number 3 right now. So we'll get into that interview right after a word from our sponsor. All right, welcome back to the Fresh of the Word podcast, and like always, we have the freshest of guests for you. And my guest for this episode is Todd Black. He's the writer for the anime-style comic Tokyo Blade Detectives. I previously contributed to his last Kickstarter, so I was able to get the first 2 issues, and it was dope. And now he's gonna he has a new Kickstarter for the 3rd issue of Tokyo Blade Detectives running now. So we're gonna talk about that. So thanks for joining me, Todd.
Happy to be here. And I was surprised when we met. You're like, oh, okay, send me your comic. And then I sent you, he goes, oh, you're that guy. Oh, I didn't know. What are the odds of that?
Right. I was already going to mention this comic book, like, in one of my intros, like, to the episodes, because I had just gotten the package from you, those first 2 episodes, or those 2 issues, and I just got done reading them, and I was like, yo, this is dope. I'm like, I like this this comic book. And I'm like, I wonder when he's going to do number 3. And then, hey, then I saw like your messages that number 3 was coming, and I was like, oh, cool, man. And then you hit me up, and I was like, all right. And I didn't I didn't even realize it was you. And
all right.
Like, yeah, just email me. We'll see. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, snap. All right. It's aligning. The planets are aligning. The energy is coming together, so we're going to talk about the comic book Tokyo Blade Detectives. First off, just kind of, what was your idea in the beginning to start this comic book?
Well, the idea came from like the weirdest place ever. It was for a Facebook meme. Kid you not. It was one of those ones where it was like, insert the first letter of your first name, your first letter of your last name, stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
And it was what is your anime title? I'm like, okay, I'll play this. And it came out as Tokyo Blade Detectives. And I typed it in the comments like Tokyo Blade Detectives sounds like a franchise. And someone actually replied to that, said, yeah, it actually does sound like one. You should work on that. And I'm like, yeah, okay, let's roll this. So I looked at the name because the name was obviously very important. I'm like, okay, if it's detectives, it's modern day Tokyo, which is fine. But if it's blades, that means swords. So what would happen for swords to be in the mix? And then the line hit my head: in a land where guns are outlawed, only the blade can rule. And I'm like, that's it. Yep. So the floodgates just opened, and I started writing out a whole bunch of ideas. And I just wanted to come up with, like you said, like an anime style comic of my version of Japan with as many references to all the Japanese shows and culture that I have loved for about 30 years of life. And it just came out as a story you're reading now.
What were some of the things that, some of your favorite things that you kind of referenced in this story that you were like, yo, I'm totally going to do that?
Well, the obvious one was samurai, because, that's one of the biggest things about Japan. I even referenced in the story that the people kind of went back to a more feudal style of both attire and thinking, and so I knew I had to have samurai in there. But then I reference Digimon, I reference Naruto, I reference technically Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles because of how one of the Ronin looks. But then I have some other references. I also reference a wrestler from Japan named Asuka. She's
I saw, I got that, I was like, this reminds me of Asuka right now,
Yeah.
So
someone gets it. But that's my Empress of tomorrow, and
yeah, I got that, yeah, totally,
yeah. So there's just a lot of references, and then there's more to come. So
cool.
It's just fun, putting it all in there.
Along with your just natural research of all those things you just that you just named. Did you have to do any other research about, just to make everything authentic?
Yeah, actually. For example, in the second issue, we meet the Tao, who are the religious faction, and I had looked up Taoism a long time ago for a very for off-brand reason, and I went back to it, and I was like, wait a minute, is this Japanese? I thought it was Chinese, and it's both actually. It was started out in China, but then moved to Japan, which is why it's referenced in shows like Digimon. And I was like, okay, I can use that. And then I looked up, like yokai to get a better idea on that. I looked more about the nine-tailed fox, so it wasn't just a Naruto reference. I uh, I looked up certain other things about the history of Japan, like samurai and everything, to make sure I had certain things correct, like in terms of Ronin and how they're more than just a samurai without a master. And I wanted to make sure it's as authentic as I could make it, because I didn't want to say, oh, this is a version of Japan. It's Japan. It's our Japan. It's just 200 years in the future, and lots of things have happened in those 200 years. So
Taking all that into consideration, how did you go about making sure that the look of the book, what people were wearing, what they were using were authentic also, and made that look cool.
Obviously, authentic in this case is a little bit subjective, because they're in the future,
Yeah.
and yet they're kind of referencing the past. So my artist Lam Vivan, I gave him some leeway and say, okay, so some people are going to dress like kind of futuristically, some are going to be like old school Japan and kimonos and all that stuff, and I just let him have free reign. It's like I say, don't be afraid to mix and match and have some fun, because as we're going to show in a future issue, they have a machine that'll basically craft any clothing you want. So which is actually key in issue 3 for something I won't spoil, but it's all there. It's just I wanted to at least give the appearance of some of them are kind of reverting back to the feudal age, while some are very much embracing the more modern and futuristic version of Japan that they are in. So it's fun to have a little fun with all the styles.
Right. When you're kind of going through the character development for this book, his book centers around Miko, and she kind of has this idea. There's kind of this thing with her where it seems like she's fighting with her past and fighting with any connection of family or whatever that she has. Sort of what was the idea of going into that, and because that's kind of a universal thing that a lot of people can kind of connect to.
Yeah, Miko is my very blunt, very honest protagonist, and when I was making her, I wanted to make sure that she was very unlike any other protagonist I had ever made before, which is a thing I like to do with all my stories. And the last time I had a female main character in the fantasy sense was a book called Home, and my main character was Alicia, who I literally define as the most relatable girl in the world. She just has blue hair. So and she was incredibly nice. She rarely got angry, and I'm like, if I'm going to do this story, I need to have the angriest little girl you ever did see. Teen angst, all of it. And everyone loves Miko, apparently, so I did something right. But yeah, her past is very much tied into the fabric of Tokyo. You're actually going to get a small glimpse at her origin story in issue 3, which is very exciting.
Good.
So, and it's not going to go the way you think. But yeah, her past is something special to her in the good and the bad way. And that's why she really hates where she is in Tokyo, but she can't leave. So she's like, if I'm going to do something, I might as well, get paid to do it. Which is why, when she gets a customer, she's like, can you pay? Because that's all she cares about. She cares about getting through the day. That's all that matters to her. And if someone gets in her way, she'll either chew you out or kill you. So that's my Miko.
Right. I think she's likable because, you can tell that she's not totally cold,
Yeah.
There is a caring person behind all of that, angst.
Yeah, at times, and you're going to see another fraction of that in this upcoming issue. But yeah, I wanted to make sure that she wasn't completely mean, but she made herself that way because of various things in her past, both long-reaching and recent, which we teased in 2 if you caught a certain panel. But yeah, she's multi-layered in this arc, and the next issue, not 3 but 4, is going to delve even more into that, because a lot of people, a friend of mine is literally in love with Miko, and I'm like, that's weird. But another one's like, well, how did she get this way? And I'm like, oh, you're going to see. Her origin's going to be a long game kind of thing, because it's going to play out in many different arcs. So
I feel like, a lot of the people that surrounded her, like in these first two issues, the people that she would meet, um, that kind of had a real interest in her, they kind of have this thing where it's like they don't press her too much. They kind of just let her be her, and because they I feel like they know more about who she really is or something. Like, speak about like the characters around her and how they kind of deal with Miko.
Well, Michio, who is her partner in Tokyo Blade Detectives, the actual store that or the detective agency they run, he's been with her for many years. He's kind of the one to put her on a better path, though she'll never admit it. And while he is not her father, as he and she are more than willing to admit, he sees her as, a child that needs to be taken care of, and who better than a father to know how to handle, someone like Miko. For the Empress, without spoiling too much, they have a connection that is deeper, arguably, than even Michio, and Empress knows that, Miko is not one to be pushed, but she also knows that more than likely she'll come back to her eventually. And the Tau are kind of like your priest, literally, whereas, they can see your soul, and they know that whether you're good or not, which is why a certain line at the end of their confrontation in 2 is so important, because like they know already what happened to her, and she just doesn't care because she's Miko. But it's how she interacts with all the factions and future characters we're going to meet, including one I can't wait to show off in number 4. They all have like it's a very interesting way of handling Miko, because they know she can be a handful, but they also know that she can do good, and that's why they hang around her, if you will.
I know it being a comic book that you have a finite amount of pages to tell a story, but
Yeah.
it's kind of funny that like this is one of those stories where she just went out to do one thing and it just kind of snowballed into all these other things. and
Best stories are that.
and that's what was kind of funny. And she would go to one place and they'd be like, "No, you got to talk to them." And every time she's like, "Blah, what the hell?"
Sorry, princess. Sorry, Mario. Your princess is in another castle.
Right.
This is the anime version of that. but no, the first arc, which we call Welcome to Tokyo, is very important to me because I'm giving like the loosest possible viewpoint of my version of Tokyo, in terms of how dangerous it is from the factions, including the third one we meet at the end of issue 2. How the laser swords work and everything else, because I'm trying to, even the first page, which if you recall is a handwritten letter from Michio, it's just I'm trying to give like the tiniest teases of what's coming, because clearly something happened to make Tokyo this way.
Yeah.
So, and again, over the course of the series, you're going to find out both how it got here and how that affected all the characters. And these are the kinds of stories I love, because they're the ones that have like the infinite amount of potential, and it's just when are you going to get to that story and this story, and when are you going to connect all these, and like there's a character you've already met that's much deeper than you realize, and you'll be finding out about them in issue 4, and I look forward to showing them that. And there's just so many layers and levels, and every arc matters in this in Tokyo Blade Detectives, because it has to, because of the nature of the world I created. Everything has a ripple effect. What Miko does in this arc with her case is gonna affect everything, and then the second arc and the third arc, and it's just gonna keep escalating until a major event happens, and then everything gets changed. So it's a cool thing to build towards.
When it comes to a lot of these, these factions that they have in these in the city, not a lot of people are like super aggro, but you can tell that they're serious on a sort of low end, Kind of talk about like that sort of character development.
Well, I wanted to. It would have been so easy to put the city at war, but then if it's the city at war, then how is there going to be like a detective case going on? Because obviously the whole thing would be burning. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to make 5 very different factions with 5 very different goals on what to do. And so, for example, the Empress wants to take over because she wants to be the first female ruler of Japan, and she is the most, I like to say, gang version, because all her soldiers are basically cannon fodder to her. They're loyal. She'll use them. She'll kill them, if they take her off, and she doesn't care because she knows there's more who will follow.
But she's
The
still not like
Tau,
super aggro. She just kind of chill, you know. And
yeah. Oh, she wants you to think that at least, and then
yeah,
she'll kill
she
you.
just acts like she's chill, you know. But then
Yeah.
she'd be like, "You're dead."
Yeah, just like Asuka. And the Tau, they're trying to bring more balance to Tokyo via their religious beliefs, black and white, light and dark, and they use their technology to kind of entrance people, if you will, into saying that there is a better way. Then you got the yokai, who we're going to have a heavy focus on in number 3. They're my terrorists. We are going to cause chaos, we're going to cause havoc, and you can't stop us. And you'll see exactly why they have that belief in number 3. Then we have 2 other groups, the Ronin, who I'm not going to talk about too much, and then the Nine Tails. The Nine Tails are the assassins. They're the smallest faction, but they're arguably the deadliest faction because they are 9 incredibly powerful, incredibly strong, and incredibly deadly people who will use their own power to shift the balance all across Tokyo and screw up the board, if you will. And we'll be meeting them in the next arc, so I look forward to that. But and then there's some other characters we're going to meet eventually, but there's so much going on here, and I wanted to have not just all the factions represent a different part of Japan's history, from the female side of things to the yokai, which are like legendary monsters. The Nine Tails are a reference to the nine-tailed fox. The Tower, of course, one of our Taoists, which is a Japanese religion. The Ronin are integral to Japanese history, and then of course there's a samurai who served the emperor, who we haven't met yet, but we will. So everything is connected.
So we're going into this Kickstarter for the 3rd issue. Like,
Yes.
how far in your head do you have this?
So far. So far. Like, I already have some other factions I want to introduce eventually. One of which is connected to the Empress. I won't say much more than that. But and then there's one that they're kind of like the outcast group more than the yokai are, and that's going to be an interesting thing to show off. But like that's 25 issues down the line at least. And but yeah, it's just I wanted to think, like, because I see this as an anime, and the only reason that animes work in the long term, like a Dragon Ball, like a Fairy Tail, like a One Piece, is that they just keep escalating. They keep changing things. It's never stagnant. And what is stagnant? We have terrible arcs that we all can think about right off the top of our heads. And I want a story that is not infinite, because that would eventually get boring, but long enough to where you can tell all these different kinds of stories, and you're like, what? Ooh, I want the next episode. I want the next issue. When's it coming? So that's what I'm doing here, and the response has been pretty good, including yours. So thank you for that.
Right. You're welcome. So what are you offering on this current Kickstarter?
Rewards wise, I always try to appeal to a wide array of people. For example, we have, if you can only pledge like a few bucks, like $3, you'll get a digital PDF of the comic. If you pledge $5 and haven't gotten to read the series at all, you'll get all 3 issues for $5.
Okay.
No problem to me. For $10, you'll get the physical copy of Tokyo number 3. For $20, you'll get all 3 issues in physical copy, and then I have other rewards where you can get every single comic that I have ever made in digital format, in physical format. You can get drawn into the comic. I'll actually help you make comics, like every step of the way, from script to conception and all that, and Kickstarter if you want. And I have a few more strewn throughout, so I try to appeal to everybody.
Talk about some of your previous comics that you've done.
So far, I've done several series. I have a superhero comic called Guardians, which is all available on Amazon, actually, and currently on hiatus because I had other things to do. But that was my first series, and it really helped me get my feet wet and everything. Then I wrote a sci-fi fantasy mini-series called Home, all of which was funded on Kickstarter, and that one's also on Amazon. Then I wrote a graphic novel called 10,000 Miles, which I like to call my Disney story, if you will, because it's very Disney-esque in its look and its feel and its storytelling. Also on Amazon. Then I'm currently writing a science comic called Seekers of Science with 2 actual scientists, Tamara Robertson and Tracy Fanara. We have 4 issues out. We're going to be working on number 5 soon, hopefully. And then I also wrote some Sherlock Holmes novels because that's totally legal. And that was a lot of fun. That helped me get to like another medium of writing, and I've always got something else, in the books, and I'm on Tokyo. So
How do you go about like sort of, you know, organizing all your work that you do? You know.
it can be hard at times, especially with this like lockdown, which totally screwed up my plans. Thanks, COVID. Um, I like in the early days it was easy because all I had was Guardians, and so I just wanted to, and I was like, oh, I'll write this forever. Glad it didn't, but still, 20 issues is nothing to scoff at. And then I was like, I gotta stop this. So, dang gnats, I gotta stop this so I can start working on other series. So then I started working on Home, and with Kickstarters, you only can focus on one thing because it's like I need to promote, I need to do podcasts, I need to do all these other things to get the word out there.
Yeah.
And so that was easy. With the novels, it was easy enough to balance because one's a visual medium and one's just written word. So like that was easy to do both at the time. And then because of how long I've been doing this, I have access to various artists. So for like Seekers of Science, I have a different artist than what I have on Tokyo. So it's easy to balance those two guys because they do all the work visually, and I just I offer my guidance, and we need to fix this and everything. So it can be busy at times, especially since I have a day job. But you make it work with what you got, and that's what I do.
How is it like sort of transitioning to each project when it looks like you've like expanded from what you've done on these different projects that you've done?
Well, originally it was out of necessity that I moved on because I had just gotten done with an arc in Guardians, and I was setting up for the next one, and then Oni Press had a open submissions call for new story ideas, and there are two rules: it had to be a short form series to start, and it can be superheroes. So I was like, well, all I've got is Guardians, so I got to think of something else. And so I thought of Home and 10,000 Miles, and I got rejected both times, which was fine. They had like thousands of submissions, but I was like, okay, I gotta work on this. And the biggest challenge was I personally wanted to use different artists because with Guardians, all I used was Alex outside the first issue. And so for Home, I had a artist named Beth Varney and some others who helped me out with that. So like it took me a while to get used to their style because I was used to working with Alex for so long, and then I had to move on to 10,000 Miles, where I had another new artist, but then we couldn't make it work visually. So I went back to Alex, ironically enough, who surprised me with his incredible talent once more. So I never doubt him again. He also does Seekers, so that was great. And then with Tokyo, that was arguably the hardest because I needed the anime style. Because with the other ones, you could be kind of frugal with how it looks. It doesn't need to be a set way. But with Tokyo, I said I wanted this to be an anime style comic.
Yeah.
So it took me months to find Lon because everyone else was either too, jagged, a little too manga for my taste. One person drew it like it was like an actual cartoon, which is awesome, but doesn't really work in the comics. Says. No, seriously, like this guy drew this concept art of Miko, and it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. But it was too much, and I was like, it's tone it down because he was like rippling with detail, almost like it was like a 3D rendering.
Right.
But it wasn't. It was 2D. It was just so gorgeous. But it was like that won't work in a comic. So and so eventually I found Lom, and though we had to work out a few things, eventually we found our rhythm, and now we're 3 issues in, and it's just going great. So the hardest thing is just working with the newer people and trying to find that rhythm, because with me and Alex we have a rhythm and it's easy. With Lom now we have a rhythm because we've been doing it for a few issues, but every new project you have to, especially with new people, you have to find that rhythm to just get the comic done, because that's what hurts comics most times, is that you can't find that balance between the artist and the writer and even
Right.
the editor, and things just fall apart. Well, I do the work, and I want my comics to work. So I make sure I find that rhythm, or if not, I'll look for someone who will.
What did you learn about yourself during that whole time in regards to working with all these people, having to find that rhythm? What did you learn about yourself?
That I have more patience than I actually thought. Well, it's just like, when I put out the call for Tokyo, I found a guy who did a concept piece. I know people say never do work for free, but I always ask for one free piece in terms of concept art, because if you can't do a concept art the way I need it to, then I'm not gonna hire you to do the pages. And so this guy drew a concept art. It was perfect. It was perfect, Nico. I was like, this is exactly the style I need. So I was like, okay, let's do the first page. And he goes, great. And it was horrible. I mean, okay, it wasn't like horrible. I've totally seen worse. But in terms of what I needed, it just Miko didn't look like right. The characters looked incredibly cartoony and like not in the anime sense, but it was just like everything was inflated. She just didn't look right, and I'm like, okay, let's try and refine this, and it just didn't work. So after a few tries, I'm just like, I had to be honest with myself. It's like, okay, it may take me a few more months, but I got to find a new artist. He understood, so we broke off. And then it took me literal months and a couple of Facebook posts to find Lam. And even then I was like, okay, just don't rush into this. Be patient, see if you can do this, recreate this page, blah, blah, blah. And he was able to do it. And it looks so stylish and so much fun. And I just had to have patience, because sometimes between Alex or Lam or even Beth, they would do things. I'm like, why did you do that? Why? But I'm like, nope, don't do that, Todd.
Hey, chill out.
Chill. And they just need to hear why it's not right, and they always responded well. Or if they didn't, they would like ask, well, why does it need to be changed this way? And I would explain that. And a lot of people give writers flack because they go, oh, you just write the scripts. I'm like, no, we do more than that. And don't get me wrong, the artists totally do more than I, but I have
a lot of, like, everybody kind of does more than you'd think that they do, and
absolutely. It's a team effort, and from the editors helping make the script better, from the writers making sure that the art like totally fits the script. Because I've had panels that I'm like, did you read the script? I mean, I specifically said they were jumping and you have them running. Hello. But it's a step-by-step process, and that's why comics honestly do take a while to make, because even when you're at all cylinders firing off perfectly, things can still get screwed up. And so you need to take your time and have the patience to work with each other, sometimes accept that they had a better idea of what you thought you wanted, which has happened multiple times for me, and other times knowing that you need to talk it through with them to make sure that you have the perfect or as close to perfect art as you need. And there are times I've settled, I'm not going to lie, because I wanted to get onto the other pages, but I would never settle if I didn't think the art was at least good.
Right.
So, because I want the best comic possible for my readers like you, and for those who are trying to, break into my series, like hopefully some of your viewers and listeners are. But, it's a team effort, and that's why on every Kickstarter I always put a meet the team section, so it makes sure it's to show it's not just me doing this, it's a lot of people. So in this case it's Lam and my editor Casey Pierce, and my letterer is Zach. Yeah, Casey's the bomb. And then my letterer is Zach Som, who's worked with me on multiple projects. So it's a team effort, and I do love this team on Tokyo. We are really good together.
Like I said, I really enjoy the first two issues. I think it's a great start. What do you hope sort of comes out of this comic book? What sort of success do you realistically envision for it?
Well, about 5 years from now, let's just be generous, it'll probably be the biggest anime in the world. Kidding. You never know, but no, realistically, I see Tokyo as right now, it's like my magnum opus. I feel it's the deepest storytelling I've ever done. It's the most visually compelling book I've ever done, which is saying something because I've had some really good books. But I feel like this is one that will appeal to a wide audience potentially, and I'm really trying to hook up with a publisher. And so I feel like my goal is to get the first 4 issues done, hopefully by the end of this year. And then I'm just going to shop the book out to publishers and say, hey, this is what I've made. Let's try and do something together. And if that works, then that would be a dream come true. And if not, I'll just keep pushing on my own. I would love for this to be made into a real anime, or American anime, whatever comes first. So that's my realistic goals. I think that this is good enough, and the response to this has been good enough that I feel that this could be something special for a publisher or as a TV show or whatever. So, but I've got to do the work to make that work, and that's what I'll do.
What do you feel like is the underlying theme of this story, and what do you hope your readers get out of it?
Well, like any anime, there's a lot of things going on here. So you think, oh, this is just about Miko, but then issue 4 shows that that's not exactly accurate. And I like to, my goal in terms of story is kind of make this like a certain anime you might know, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, because that anime was amazing in making every character feel significant, every single one. And that's what I want here in Tokyo. So what I want readers to get out of this is that this is a truly vibrant and lively world full of all sorts of characters who are, working together and working against each other to try and make it something else. And every arc is going to be special. Every arc is going to flesh out just a little bit more of the world and change things. And then when a big event happens, you'll go, "Oh my gosh, that's what happened. That's what was started all the way back in issue 3." And like that's what I want, is where you see all the connective tissue just come together, and you just see this tapestry of what Tokyo has become. It's like, oh, I remember how that thread led to this and that, and so it's gonna be good stuff. And I've got some big moments coming up, a couple of which are in 3. And 4 will be have a bombshell or two, and then we'll go to our next arc where we're going to meet the Nine Tails, and they're going to change some things for some people. And it's just going to be this really big thing, and I really hope people will try it out.
Word up, word up. I'm excited for number 3. Like I was checking out your some of your socials online, and I saw that you were involved with like a comic book with AEW. Right? Like that was at C2, and I was at C2E2, and I totally missed that thing, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And like what was that?
So here's what happened. You've noticed I've said the word to do the work, which is close to the catchphrase of one Cody Rhodes. I really want to work for AEW. And so C2E2 2019, I had my artist Alex Garcia make a cover image for what I thought could be the AEW comic. And of course, the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega were at C2E2, so they had a panel. I went to the panel, and I pitched them the idea for the comic. And I actually got Mrs. Massey her card, so I could talk with her, because she's the chief merchandise officer.
Yeah.
And there were things in the works. It didn't work out. It happens. So later that year, I met Cody in person, and Brandy, and Tony Khan, and MJF, who I totally ripped a new one, but whatever. Not to brag. But I talked to him, and I showed them the cover, because that's all I had, and they go, "Hey, you're going to be here in December. Give me the green light to make a comic for you, and I'll have it for you by the time you get to December." And he goes, "Okay." So I gave him my card. I waited. And nothing happened. So I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm doing the work. And so I asked Alex, hey, I'll pay you. Let's make the comic. And he goes, okay. So I made an 8-page preview, which you yourself are seeing right here.
Yeah.
And I went to the AEW show in Champaign, Illinois, which is the home of Tony Khan. And I was actually in the second row. I had a whole bunch of copies. I gave it out to everybody near me, and we were holding it up. And Cody actually walked the arena, the front row of the arena, and I was able to give this to him. And I go, hey, this isn't the comic I was trying to tell you about. I want to make this for you. Give me a chance. And he goes, I'll make sure I'll get this to the right people, and I'll call you. I was like, okay. Never did. So I was like, okay, still let's do the work. And so I started spreading this out everywhere. I put it online. I put it on Facebook. It's my most popular Facebook page post ever. It was shared like over 100 times. I sent it out to hundreds of people who are AEW fans. I put it out on Twitter. I put it on the AEW Discord, and we were doing everything we could to try to get this to happen. And eventually, I got to a point where it was really in AEW's hands whether they hire me or not. Obviously, I haven't been hired yet, but I have not given up. I will endeavor to continue to try and make this, because I want to work for AEW. And to any of you listening, if you do want the AEW comic, there's a very easy way to get it. You can go to Twitter at Guardians_comic, tweet at me and say, hey, Todd, I want #AEW comic, and I'll send it to you for free. I have a Dropbox link. Anyone can download it. It's free. So if you want to support me to get me into AEW, that's the way to do it, and that includes you, Kelly. So.
Oh yeah. Send me that link, man. I want to check that out. Yeah, I saw
But
that. I'm like, that looks cool.
No, yeah, it's a passion project, and it's basically the origin of how the Elite came from the Elite to All Elite Wrestling, and I show off like this is my favorite page, so just so you can see it. That's the Dynamite Splash page where I have most of my favorites on there, including Sheeta, who I totally don't have a crush on. No, totally don't. But it's something I really want to do, and I'm like, this is something that could really work for AEW. And I swear to God, if it wasn't for COVID, I'd probably be hired right now. It's COVID's fault. It's COVID's fault, man.
Right.
I had copies of C2E2. I kid you not. I gave it to Alex Bailey. And it's like, he said he would give it to Kenny, and this is before Revolution, so who knows what really happened. But I gave it to Alex, and all these people, and actually Cody got to see it again because a friend did me it solid, and it's like, I know this could work, and if it wasn't for COVID, I'd probably be hired right now. So curse you, global lockdown. But
so you're a wrestling fan, obviously.
Obviously.
What's your favorite promotions or whatnot? I like AEW. I like New Japan. I like all the Joshi promotions. I kind of a little bit of everything. Like, those are my favorites kind of these days.
Yeah. My favorite is AEW.
Okay.
And I don't just say this because I want to work for them. They really inspired me in how they went from, underdog indie wrestlers to, you'll never sell out the Sears Center, which they did. I know, I was there. And, then they made All Elite Wrestling, and I'm like, I've got to support this. They have rarely, if ever, disappointed me in AEW, and they're just a really great group of guys. Now, in terms of other promotions I do watch WWE, regretfully.
Yeah,
it's been horrible. But
I watch NXT more,
Yeah, I do watch NXT.
Because Io Shirai is my favorite wrestler in the world. So
really? It's a good pick. But I
I like NXT. To me, I like watching the women's wrestlers. I'm bigger fans of them.
Yeah.
And that's why I'll still watch NXT.
Yeah.
And I'll watch the segments on Raw and SmackDown that include Asuka and stuff like that.
Yeah, rest in peace, Asuka. What just happened to her? Oh my gosh, I want to kill Vince. But also, I think it says something about me that my two favorite women's wrestlers are Asuka and Sheeta. So clearly, I have a type.
No, I'm the same way. It's Asuka, Io Shirai, then a bunch of other Japanese wrestlers.
Yeah. But anyway, I started watching wrestling right when the Ruthless Aggression era came around, so right after the Attitude Era, so I totally missed that.
Yeah.
But so that was all I had for a while. Then I got into TNA, pure TNA, AJ and all of them, Jeff Jarrett. Then that became Impact. I watched that for a while, and then it went off of Spike TV, so I couldn't. Then I found Lucha Underground. Oh my god,
that was good. Yeah, that was really good.
Good 4 years, just terrible. The backstage stuff was crap. But still, that was my pinnacle. I looked forward every week, every match mattered, loved it to death. And then when I found out about NXT, the original NXT, it was just as good. And so that became my favorite for a long time. Especially every takeover was special.
Oh yeah.
But then ironically, once they went live, it really went downhill in my opinion. And it's still okay. They still put on good matches, but I just don't feel that they're at the quality that they used to be, especially in certain divisions that they used to dominate in over.
I just think WWE hasn't been able to really know what to do during this COVID time, during this pandemic time, when these other promotions I think are actually doing a good job of having no fans in the in the arenas and whatnot. With AEW, having Chris Jericho on commentary is so amazing,
Yeah, he's the demo god. But and AEW is just very special to me because I tonight tonight at the time of this recording, Cody's gonna have a match with Warhorse.
Warhorse, yeah, we're about to watch Warhorse, man, on TV.
Yeah, so we better start wrapping this up because we got
definitely, yeah. I was gonna be we're gonna get this done before that,
yeah,
and we got to see freaking what's his name last week?
Eddie Kingston.
on freaking national TV.
That was cool. Cody
Like,
taking the tax, love it. But like they care and they listen to the fans, which is something that WWE doesn't do. And it's just like, hey, we're doing this. This is what we want to do. And hey, the fans aren't really responding to this. Let's change it. And they go, okay. And it's working, And even without the fans, which I really felt would hurt AEW in the long run, it hasn't. It's, granted, when the fans are back, it's going to be amazing, and I will totally be at one of their shows.
But the funny thing is, the other wrestlers that they have around are so hilarious out in the crowd that.
Oh yeah, Big Swole.
She is hilarious, dog.
Chewing out Lance Archer like she's gonna kill him, and I'm like, what? I'll put my money on Big Swole to kill him.
There was one time there was a women's match, and she just kept on yelling out, "Whoop that trick, whoop that trick."
That sounds like him, but Big Swole's good. They're still working out some things, and that's totally fine.
Yeah, it's fine, but
I mean, but like when I see a night or when I watch a match that just totally resonates with me, I always call it out. And AEW has just had so many of those just recently, and it's so good. Like when Sheeta won the title, I was so happy.
Yeah.
But I just love AEW, but I do like watching other promotions. I watched Wrestle Kingdom for the first time this year, and that was a lot of fun. Match of the night for me was Ospreay versus Hiromu. Hiromu?
Hiromu.
The Time Bomb Cat.
Yeah.
Time Bomb Cat. And like that was match of the night. But then of course you got Okada versus Ibushi, and like that was legendarily awesome, especially Okada's entrance. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But like there is so much good wrestling around the world, and that's why I love it, and that's why I want to make a comic for him, because like if I want to help build AEW in my own way, and I can do it as a fan, I can do it by watching their shows, but I feel I can do it via the comic, and so
all right, hear that AEW, Todd Black, hire him. Hire him.
I'll work for cheap. I even told the Bucks, it's like, hey, I'll do the first issue for free. I'm like, if that doesn't, I'm not asking for the $1 million contract that we all know you give people.
All right, hire Todd Black. Hire him,
please.
All right,
please.
Before we get out of here, go ahead and plug your stuff and let everybody know where they can follow you online and check out the Kickstarter and everything that you're working on.
So obviously the most important thing is the Kickstarter, Tokyo Blade Detectives #3. We'll give Kelly the link so he can put it on.
The link will be in the show notes at freshasthepodcast.com.
Perfect. So and then if you want to get my other books out, if you don't want to do it via the Kickstarter, I am on Amazon. Most of my books are on Amazon in trade paperback, so it's very easy to get. Seekers of Science are there too, but if you don't want to wait, you can go to seekersofscience.com. You have all their stuff there. And on Twitter, I am at Guardians_comic, exactly how it sounds. Facebook, I am author Todd Black. So that's my business page. And then you can find my personal page if you look hard enough. Just look for the Fro. I'm there. And then Instagram, same as my Twitter. So there's a lot of places to find me, and I'll happily talk with all of you.
Thank you for listening to the Fresh is the Word podcast, hosted and produced by myself, Kelly K. Fresh Frazier, empowered by Anchor at anchor.fm/Fresh is the Word. Fresh is the Word theme music provided by Steve O. You can find more of his productions at iamsteveo.bandcamp.com, and that's EYEAMSTEVEO.bandcamp.com. Fresh is the Word is available on all major streaming platforms. Please rate and review on Apple Podcasts and Stitcher. If you want to support Fresh is the Word, please consider pledging via Patreon at patreon.com/freshastheword. Follow Fresh is the Word on social media on Twitter at Fresh is the Pod, on Instagram at Fresh is the Word Podcast, and join the Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/Fresh is the Word. For more information about Fresh is the Word and our other podcasts, Breaking Records and Renaissance Soul, and a collection of pop culture articles and reviews, please visit freshasthepodcast.com. Thank you for listening and your support. Goodbye and good night.
Fresh is the word.